Today's shave is going to be with my That Darn Rob brush. It has his Fanchurian knot on it. See if we can get these bristles, the tips, to soften up a little bit. And so we're going to put this in my usual soaking jar. You can just get the bristles wet with your hand if you don't feel like soaking it. Just let them sit for just a minute. Animal hairs, you kind of need to do that. Synthetics, don't need to worry about it. But especially boar. Boar is more likely to need soaking for your average person, unless you just are kind of tweaking things, because the boar hairs actually absorb the water. Today's soap is one in this cool aluminum pot thing. And this is Island Man from Stirling. I guess it's kind of old because it has lost its scent from the top layer. So let's see what happens when we work through that top layer as we load. The razor for today is one that I acquired a little bit ago. This is from the UK, and it is a rocket. And it's got great balance. It's got a solid core. I mean, not right here, but it's got nice balance to it. I like my other rocket a lot, and so I decided to grab, it wasn't too expensive, this UK rocket. And this one's in gold plating. And works great. The action here, very smooth. Balance is nice. So I'm looking forward to trying it out. And inside the rocket, I'm going to put one of my old reliable blades. This Gillette silver blue. It's had several uses on it. See if I can work it out here. And this is one that I'm using and tracking how many times I use it. So I put that X on it. So far it looks like, where's my guy? Okay, 8 uses so far. So, all right. Just lay that guy in there if you're brand new to double-edged shaving, and then just tighten it on down. That's all there is to that. And just always visually check just to make sure that the razor, especially if it's new to you, that the edges that you see are even on both sides, so that it's not tilted, because that can lead to cuts or razor rash, irritation, that sort of thing. I believe we're about ready to go. I'm going to pause you while I wet my face. So I got this in a purchase of a kind of a box of soaps, and it's great when you do that if you find a good one, because you can usually get a good deal. I'm going to shake most of the water out of the brush. There we go, not dripping at all. And let's do, since it's kind of dry, why not do a 30-second load. And we'll wait till it hits 40. And there we go. So we'll load until we see the 10-second mark. Takes a second, but the bubbles do start to up here. Wow, we're already at 20 seconds already. I'm going to tilt it to the side so that the bubbles kind of fall into the sink if they do. And there's 10 seconds. All right, let's just kind of wipe up the excess. Wow, yeah, not really smelling very much in that one. Got slippery and dropped it out of my, dropped it. Guess this is the time where we have to redo our towels, right? Okay. Lather bowl. No water in it. We just have the water so far that was loaded in the brush. Left in the brush. Lightly wet. Stirling's a great soap. Very good price. Nice and slick. Sure, it's not a top tier formula, but it doesn't cost like half as much as the top tier formulas, and it does only maybe 10% less. Already we've kind of whipped up a nice little bit of cream there. Now the good thing is that just about every soap out there, even if it loses its scent because of exposure or something, it's still going to give you a quality lather. It may not be a strong scent or any scent at all, in fact. So glad to be home, back with my bowl here. I just really like how it contains the lather. Just a little quick shave tonight. Yeah, not much of a scent. Don't know if that's just kind of an old puck or what. Looking good. Why don't we test it a little bit with our good cushion. Oh, barely can I feel the ridges in my fingerprints. Why don't we just go ahead and use it? Okay, I'll just sprinkle a few drops on there and we'll bring that in, mix that in and use it. All right. Just splash a little bit of water on my face. There we go. 24-hour growth approximately. Cold water, hard water. I haven't used Stirling in a while. I've just kind of been getting new soaps in by making discount purchases and things like that. Working with samples. I worked through a mystery box that I got from an online user, and that worked out really well. I liked so many of those fragrances, and the bases were terrific. Okay, just spread out a nice layer once I've done the scrubbing. There we go. As usual, this kind of grip and checking, knurling there on the handle is not a problem, even when soapy. I've got another rocket. I can't remember if it's UK or American. Maybe I'm forgetting that all rockets are UK. I'm not real sure. Can't remember. Very nice cutter. These UK razors so often, and this is the reason I picked it up. It wasn't very much, and I thought, you know what? Every UK Gillette that I've got is an excellent cutter. And they ride this wonderful line between efficiency and comfort. So let's try this guy out. I'm glad I did. He's working really well. This first pass is always the, can be the roughest one, as it knocks down the longest growth, has the potential for tugging more than the other passes by far. So this was excellent. No tugging at all. Didn't even feel, the blade's working really well. It's an excellent pairing, this blade and this razor. I believe late 1940s to early late 1930s to early 1940s or mid 1940s is about when this razor was produced, if my research was correct. Let's rinse this off. Well, again, I'm not really getting anything from this scent even during the rinse, so I'm guessing maybe this puck was either a manufacturing malfunction or it's just sat around for so long that that top layer of soap has lost its juice. And even though this layer wasn't all that thick or creamy or anything like that, protected very nicely. Gave my razor plenty of glide, everything it needed. That's just what Stirling does. It's a good soap. So many scents to choose from. I highly recommend it to veterans and beginners alike. Cross grain pattern now. Feels very smooth. You can kind of hear it cutting, but to be honest, I can't really feel it cutting. One really neat thing, sometimes as a shaver, I think about different purchasing options, scenarios in which if I had to start over, some of the ideas I might do to work out the whole system of aftershaves and soaps and things like that. I've got a couple of friends online who are kind of dabbling with this concept of just having unscented soaps and then a large collection of aftershaves or colognes and things like that. And that's interesting because then the soap base, you just need a few good bases, and you're not spending tons of money on soaps, you're spending it on aftershaves. And in a sense, that's cool because the aftershave is really usually lasts longer in terms of the scent than a soap does. Soaps will often just diminish even 10 minutes after the shave, half an hour after the shave. Some of them do go hours, but those are rare. And some of them are so weak you can't smell them during the shave. And so then why invest in a big collection in that way? And that makes kind of sense from certain perspective. Let me rinse this. It makes sense because you're spending more money on the scent that's going to last, and you don't need a big inventory of soaps. Smaller bottles of aftershave is all you need. So that could be inventory control as well in terms of the size of your den and all that. That could help that. Well, that's one way to do it. Another one that I've thought about is just going with Stirling and other companies who have these 2 ounce or 1 ounce samples that are just large. One of the slivers of the Stirling sample could I've heard will last about a month of shaves, of daily shaves. And so, you know what? I could just, what if I bought, because I think there's probably 8 to 12 Stirling scents that I really enjoy. So what if I just lived off of Stirling samples? Or some of the other companies. I think there's one other that gives nice hearty samples like Stirling. I lived off those size samples, and I had a good selection, but I just didn't have a large inventory. The 6 ounces that Stirling usually sends in their normal tubs. And so then when I got done with the sample, I'd just buy another one. Maybe I'd replace it if it was one of my favorites, or maybe I'd branch off to try something else for another month, you know. Now, of course, I could go back and forth. Maybe I wouldn't use, knowing me, I would not use one sample for a whole month. I'd definitely vary it, but I'd be changing out my inventory a lot more quickly than these full-size tubs that I have. That's one of those things that just kind of popped into my head. Notice now I haven't reduced my lather at all. It's just a nice lather that I feel I've mixed well, so I'm happy with it. Let's do a little bit of kind of repeated buffing in this area, because this is the problem zone. Everywhere else is a piece of cake. Very comfortable, smooth, nice glide. Nice to come back to Stirling after venturing out into, lately it's been the new formulas from Barrister and Mann, from Declaration Grooming, the new soap bases that have come out recently. They're very good, but you know, I'm getting a great shave off of the good old Stirling base. So all these people who talk about the new bases being so much better, and they are really good. They really are. But they're like this much better because we're in the zone of very good lathers. You know, very good soaps, and so maybe they're higher, but we're even the Stirling and some others that might be even lower than Stirling. They're still in this great zone of pleasurable, enjoyable, luxurious lathers. So I'm really glad to return to some of those that might be in the lower range of this wonderful zone that we have. It's so neat to have so many makers that are making good soap for us. Nice creamy lather, rinsing off. This is one of those soaps that sometimes will not be all that creamy and slick as I rinse it from the first pass, probably because of my oily skin, and that first pass has to kind of clean that up a little bit. Now I believe, was that my second pass? Lost track. Just do it again. I did dab my face dry, and it looks like, take a look at that. When I finish the circular type motions, it almost looks a little dry. Then paint it on, and it'll change the look. Just go by your feel. Go by how your face feels. Does it feel more dry than you want? If so, we'll just add a little bit of water. And that will, if you ever add water to your lather, and then all of a sudden it explodes with quantity, then you didn't really mix your lather enough. Or you didn't add enough water to your lather, you left it dry. That second one is really kind of the meaning I was going for there. Yeah, it's much nicer once I added a little bit more water to it. I should have left the water on my face after I rinsed, but I dabbed it off. So I'm really happy with this UK Rocket. Doing well. I like these. I like thicker handles, but when I do end up with a razor with thinner handles, I do really appreciate the maneuverability, how quickly they are to switch sides as you're shaving. Now, to me, it just was a natural thing, but it's come up online a few times with people saying, you know, how do you shave? Do you, for the first pass, do you use one side of the razor, and the next pass you use the other side, and you alternate sides like that? Well, for me, I will shave one side until it's kind of loaded with lather. Then I'll flip it and shave until the other side's about loaded with lather in the same way. Basically getting the same mileage, alternating on each side of the blade. So at the end of every shave, each edge has gotten roughly the same amount of use. Let's rinse this. And now we'll go ahead and do my half pass on the neck after the 3. Doesn't require any scrubbing. We've already scrubbed plenty. These particular tips on this Fanchurian need some softening. I hope that happens with age and with uses. Otherwise, I'll probably move it on to somebody who appreciates a little bit more scrub than I do. Excuse me. Pretty good result just now as I was looking at my shave. I could have quit, but I thought, let's check out what happens. So I'm kind of using a slide motion that it has the razor tilted and then it's coming down. Tends to cut a little nicer for me, especially in trouble areas. A little bit of facial, a little bit of skin stretching, not a lot. You can lay down some soap by doing that, by using what's underneath your edge. Little tricky guys right there. Did I get them? All right, rinse. Still a few pesky hairs down there, but it was a comfortable shave, very enjoyable, solid. A lot of times a razor like this that doesn't have, it's not clamping down on the bottom of the blade that very near the edge. It's more, the support is more in the middle, and sometimes in that case you end up with a little bit more flex in the blade, and that can cause slight inconsistencies and the noise that you hear. And some guys like that, and that's okay. But this one happens to hold it down really close to the edge and keeps it pretty solid. And I like that in a razor. Sometimes with these twist to open razors, you are hard pressed to find that. Really glad it's here with this one. Shave looks good. Ooh, very nice on the cheeks. You know, 95, 97% baby butt smooth without going against the grain on the cheeks. That's really nice. And everywhere else is very presentable, comfortable. I felt a little nick somewhere around here, but and that might be it right there. A little tiny bit of a weeper, and it may have just kind of healed itself on its own there, but That's gone. I think I'll let my razor go too low, lower than my hairline there. Stirred up just a tiny bit of razor rash right there. It's my own fault, user error. And so the 30-second lather, 30-second load on this Stirling soap, pretty much exactly what I needed. A little bit extra here for another pass if I needed it. I like that. This was not the usual tub of Stirling. It was a smaller bowl, and so that's probably why that much time in the larger Stirling tub is probably going to give you more soap and consequently more lather. I think maybe I'm starting to smell some of these notes in here. I may just have to dig this out. Another sample came with this, and I may have to press the other one into the container. All right. Well, like I said, even if it didn't give me any scent, which it didn't, performance was still great. It's a Stirling soap. How much water did I use? I did not even add a whole syringe. Looks like about a teaspoon and a quarter is what I added with the lightly wet brush. And I don't think there's anything else you need to see. I think for the balm, I'm trying to use up this container right here, so I'm going to throw on some Nivea Men post-shave balm, and this is the sensitive version. If you don't like alcohol, this is the one to get, because it doesn't have any, so there's no alcohol sting. And I do actually like the alcohol, so it has its brother, the original, and he's the one I really prefer, so I just want to use this guy up. I kind of want to see how long he'll go. But he's done a great job for me over the last year or so. Every once in a while I'll whip him out, especially if I've used a very aggressive razor and I need some help calming my skin down because it's been roughed up a little bit. So he's my first aid, my ambulance. So I dug down underneath the soap level, and I still didn't get any more scent. So either this is a really low odor soap or it's just old, and so I just chucked it. I've got another sample and we'll try it. But now's a good time for me to tell you some things you can do with an empty container. Put new soap in it. If you have a hard puck like a DR Harris or Williams or Haslinger, anything that you can't press the pad of your finger into and dent, that's a really hard puck. You can use a cheese grater. You don't want to melt those down. Use a cheese grater and then press the shavings down into whatever container you like, any shape, which is pretty cool. With softer soaps like Stirling that you can dent with your finger, you can just spoon them into kind of like butter, moving butter from one container to another. Just spoon it and press it down, spoon it, press, you know, and almost like cake frosting, level it off, and you're good to go. A lot of the American crepes you can do that with. Obviously with creams, you can kind of do the same thing. But so that's how to put soap in a custom container. If it's easy to do if you just spoon the crepe, but the shredding is the trick for the harder soaps. So now that we're in the winter, I am definitely including some hot water in my shave, which I hadn't before, mainly for sometimes during the rinses, just to tone it down, keep it from being quite so frigid, so it's cool water instead of frozen water. But also in the brush cleaning phase especially, sometimes it takes a while to get the soap out of big brushes like this if you're using really, really cold water. And so I'll bring in the warm just for that. And this is a nice, beautiful brush. I just hope he softens up a little bit. I love the amount of hairs. I think the backbone is pretty good. It's got some flex to it. We'll just hope those hairs soften up. We'll love the handle. If I don't like the knot, I'm definitely gonna just yank it and use that handle with a knot that I prefer. Final verdict about this razor, this lovely little UK Rocket. Very enjoyable to shave with. Nice heft to it. It looks small, but it's got some weight. And maybe that's part of it. Just, it doesn't feel like a tiny razor. It shaves very well. There we go, all done. I think I voiced all the likes and dislikes with this equipment. Unfortunately, that scent wasn't there, but everything else was terrific. Really enjoyed it. Nice smooth one. No irritation. Happy with the cut. Nice close. There we go. Hope there was something here for you. Take care. Have a good night.